don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
Hey guys, we are back for another video. So we're going to jump right into this really quickly here. We're going to be discussing the lawsuit that Cassie has filed against Diddy, aka brotherlove, Sean Combs, all the wonderful names he has given himself. So we're going to jump right in. And I also want to say this, as you can see on my screen, there is a trigger warning in this document. It does get very explicit. So if you feel as though, maybe you may be triggered, then maybe you should not watch this video. Again, it does relate to some very explicit things, and I'm going to get right into the video, and I will be discussing some things. So again, second warning, if you feel like you're going to be triggered, you probably shouldn't watch this video. But before I get into it, I do need you to hit that subscribe button before we get started, okay? So go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. So we're going to jump right into this document here. It is 35 pages, guys. I'm on page 2, but I'm not going to read every single page. If that's something you want to get into later, we can do that later. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to give you a high-level overview. So as you know, Cassie is suing Diddy, and she has a preliminary statement. So we're going to jump right in. The statement states in 2022, Mr. Combs received the Lifetime Achievement Award, and this was at the BET Awards. During his acceptance speech, Mr. Combs stated, "I have to give a special shout out and thank you and love to the people that was really there for me." He named a number of people before adding, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times, love. The truth, however, is that Cassie, whose real name is Miss Cassandraventura, was held down by Mr. Combs. She endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking, among other violent and unlawful acts at the hands of Mr. Combs. The complaint alleges Mr. Combs raped Mr. Ventura in his own home after she tried to leave. He often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, bust lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Mr. Combs blew up a man's car after he learned that Mrs. Ventura was romantically interested. He forced Mrs. Ventura to engage in sex acts with male sex workers while he masturbated and filmed the encounters. He demanded that Miss Ventura carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is. He introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. It is also stated that Mr. Combs ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby. And you guys will later learn that that was Suge Knight. The complaint states Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in 2005 when she was only 19 years old and he was 37 years old. He signed her to his label, which is Bad Boy Records, and within a few years, he lured Miss Ventura into a fast-paced drug-filled lifestyle and into a romantic relationship with him. He was also her boss, one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry, and he was vicious, cruel. He's a controlling man in nearly 2 decades her senior. The complaint states that Mr. Combs asserted complete control over Miss Ventura's personal and professional life, thereby ensuring her inability to escape his hold. He provided unprecedented avenues for success for the aspiring artist, but in return, he demanded obedience, loyalty, and silence. Throughout their relationship, Mr. Combs was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Mrs. Ventura savagely. These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment and Mr. Combs' related businesses, but no one dared to speak up against their frightening and ferocious boss. Following these episodes of horrific abuse, Mr. Combs would immediately attempt to hide Miss Ventura and the evidence of his violent rage. He often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical abuse, and this is a typical pattern of behavior by serial abusers. In addition to physical assaults, Mr. Combs frequently reminded Miss Ventura of his ability to cause serious physical harm, whether by requiring her to carry his gun in her purse or by blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. Adding insult to injury, Mr. Combs used illegal substances and threats of violence to force Miss Ventura. I know I keep saying Mrs. It's actually Miss because I know she's married, but it's in the complaint it says Miss. So I think that's a typo. So that's why I keep saying Mrs. But just so you guys know, I'm still talking about the same person. It says to force Miss Ventura into repeated unwanted sexual encounters with male sex workers. Over the years, and this is over, it says over the years that Mr. Combs abused I keep saying Miss Ventura physically and sexually. She again and again tried to escape his tight hold over her life. Every time she hid Mr. Combs, his vast network of corporations and affiliated entities, they would find her and they would tell her that she needed to return back to him. Many went as far as to explicitly state that her failure to return to Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the entertainment industry. When she believed that she had finally separated from her longtime abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for dinner, after which he forced her into, wait a minute. It says after which he forced her into, he got into her home and he raped her while she repeatedly said no, and it states that she tried to push him away. Miss Ventura has now fully escaped Mr. Combs, but the harm that the assaults and sexual abuse he caused her to experience for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. She has required intensive medical and psychological care to recover from the trauma she lived through. She cannot, however, continue to live in silence about what she endured. Mr. Combs remains immensely powerful and immensely dangerous. Miss Ventura therefore seeks justice for the decade of her life that Mr. Combs took away from her with threats of violence, excessive drug use, physical and psychological abuse, and sexual slavery. Now, this is getting very much into the complaint. Now we're going to get into the factual allegations, guys. This is pretty long, but I'm going to try to make it as fast as I can because I want to be able to give you guys the facts here. In this particular section of the complaint, it says that she met Mr. Combs in late 2005 or early 2006 after Mr. Combs heard Miss Ventura first single playing in a club, and he expressed interest in signing her to his label, and that was Bad Boy Records. Now, at this time, Miss Ventura was 19 years old. Mr. Combs was 37 years old. Within months, in February 2006, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal with Combs record label. Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, and it was debuting at number one, and I'm sorry, at number 4 on the US Billboard 200. To promote the album, Miss Ventura made television appearances on MTV, Total Request Live, and BET's 106 and Park. Miss Ventura suffered from significant performance anxiety during those appearances, and the press outlets, they were highly critical of her performance. Diddy made a statement that he could hear the nervousness in her voice. He smiled at it, but actually stated that that was something that he appreciated in her, because pretty much she was just a regular person. The complaint goes on to say the fact that Diddy thought and felt like she was a regular person allowed the framework for his manipulative behavior. And the complaint pretty much just goes on to say that Cassie was forced to have sex with sex workers that he would hire, and then and some at some point he made that her responsibility, that she would call on these men with big black peens to actually come and have sex with her while he watched and take pictures. Yeah, very disgusting. So it is stated that she was manipulated. The complaint states that she was beat. The complaint also states that Cassie was beat so much that his staff actually witnessed it, and in one instance, they broke down crying because she received not one but 2 black eyes as a result of an alleged beating that she received from Mr. Combs. In addition to being beat repeatedly, the complaint states that she was forced to take drugs, including cocaine, ecstasy. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So I just want to give you guys the pretty much basic, while not getting too deep again, because as I stated, it is a 35-page complaint. The complaint also states that he gave her lavish gifts, bought her vehicles, paid for her apartment, took care of her financially, told her she did not have to, be concerned about money, but he was very much controlling, including having access to her medical records, requiring his staff to see her at medical appointments, and in instances where she was beat profusely, she had to stay in hotels until she healed. Obviously, he did not want that to be out in public. The report details a time where she was beat so bad where she needed to stay where his son was, and he told her, "You need to put on makeup because my son cannot see you like that." The report also details an instance where she was beat profusely and somehow she was able to get away, and went to her parents' home, in which pictures at that time were taken. In one instance where Miss Ventura was beat, it states Miss Ventura ran away to stay with Kid Cudi at his home because this is during a time where her and Diddy had broken up, and somehow he had forced her to come back and said that he wanted to have, he called them FOs, which is a freak off, in which a freak off is where male sex workers are invited to come, in which Diddy would pay them with wads of cash. And Cassie needed to have sex with this male with the big black penis in front of Diddy, and he would allegedly take pictures. Well, during this time, somehow Diddy accessed her phone and noticed that she had emails from Kid Cudi. He started to beat her profusely. She was able to escape, and she ran away to Kid Cudi's home. It is stated that Diddy was very much enraged about that, that she had escaped and was pretty much with another man. The report stated that Diddy contacted Cassie and told her that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, but he wanted to do it when he had his friends or family around. So he pretty much wanted to let this guy know that he was a force to be reckoned with. In addition, as a result of the immense trauma Miss Ventura endured over a decade with Mr. Combs, she has suffered and continues to suffer from immense emotional distress following her escape from the cycle of abuse and sex trafficking she endured. She struggled with physical and mental manifestations of trauma. The complaint states the birth of her two children has, however, allowed her to have a new lease on life and gave her purpose. She also credits the birth of her children, basically saving her, from deleting herself. The report states that she thought about deleting herself. So this is a very, very, very troubling complaint. It goes into exclusive details about specific events. It also details a situation where Diddy got into a altercation with a friend in which he accessed Miss Ventura's apartment. Of course, it was an apartment that he had paid for. However, he had keys and just let himself in with his keys. And somehow he got into an altercation with one of Cassie's friends, and it ultimately resulted in some kind of payout or something that I don't know how the payout came about, but that is what it resulted in this complaint. Cassie states that she has lost friendships, and this has pretty much basically ruined her life. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So you guys let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I will catch you all in the next video.